Very good. Thank you very much, Julie. Welcome everyone tonight to our June 23rd, 2020 Board of Trustees public session. To begin our meeting, we will of course begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we'll begin our board meeting with a resolution regarding Juneteenth. So I will read the resolution, and then we can resolve it. So the Village Board ratifies the following resolution. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas Emancipation Day observations are held on different days in different states in the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas the state of New York recognizes June 19th as a celebratory observance, and whereas the Village of Southampton wishes to formally distinguish the significance and history of this important part of history, now and therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton, New York, does hereby commemorate Juneteenth in the Village of Southampton, New York, and urges all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and village. And be it further resolved that a duly certified copy of this resolution be prominently displayed at Village Hall.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for that. Next is our public comment. Russell, I don't know if anyone has submitted their public comment. If so, it would be obviously great to read that. If not, we do have one attendee raising a hand.
I do not have any written public comment to be read in.
Okay. I believe that that Evelyn Conrad is raising her hand and would like to do public comment. Is there a way we can invite her in, Julie?
Yes, I'm doing it right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Evelyn, please unmute.
Do you hear me now?
We can.
Excellent. Well, I sent a more comprehensive letter to each of the trustees, so it is not a mystery of what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry about Russell. I didn't send it to you. I sent it to Julie, the major question, which is, what are you going to do about the construction sites in the village, which are a danger to neighbors, a danger to children, and are simply not maintained? Every construction site is supposed to have a fence around it to keep out dogs and children in reverse order. And it is supposed to put a tarp over any filled dumpster in their area. And of course, it's the construction company is responsible for hosing down the site continuously. This is a question of a couple of $1,000. They do a circular thing that is attached with a rubber hose to a water thing, and the hose goes around and around. I don't know who is saving them the $2,000, which would be billed to the owner in any case with a management fee on top of it. And what is happening, especially in this era of the virus, is that we are getting the construction dust spewed all over the neighborhood lawns and everything else. And that is a danger. when it was just a question of uh, um, the abatement that is supposed to be done for asbestos, that's something you won't even find out about till 30, 40 years from now. Not that that makes it less serious, but perhaps you don't take it as seriously. But this is spewing out construction dust. The guys work there, the construction crews work without a mask, of course. It's hot. Why should they wear a mask? They're in the outdoors. And the dust goes all over the place. I would like to know right now what you plan to do about it, because it is a danger. And the fencing all over the state. Construction sites are fenced in, not in this village. Will you explain to me why? And by the way, I have mentioned this to Kim because I noticed that Jesse had asked Kim for comment. Kim and I met on the jitney coming to Southampton, had lovely words about our ski vacations. And then I mentioned that our building inspector was doing a crappy job. And she said, my building inspector? Gee, I didn't know it was yours. I thought it was ours. He's paid by our taxes, isn't he? Are we dealing with the My Generals era? So please, I would like to know what you're planning to do about this. It is a continuing threat to the neighbor's health. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Russell, do you have any updates from the building department as to what we are doing to address this?
As Evelyn stated, I did not receive her email, so it's not something that was fresh on my plate. I believe that we, make certain that construction sites are in compliance, but certainly now that I'm aware of it, I will, can report back. I will report back to the board, and I'll report back to Ms. Conrad directly as well.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Russell. It looks like we have one more hand raised. It's Jeff Broadleib. So if Jeff, if you'd like to join us, Julie could also bring you in here.
Jeff, please unmute.
Yep, now you got me.
There you go.
Gee, I thought I'd be on camera. I even dressed up for this. So I hope everybody's wearing pants. Richie's, uh-oh, we lost you. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jeff.
Oh, okay, good. So what I'd like to do in a couple of minutes is just bring your attention to an absurd situation that we deal with on the ARB. As most of you know, I serve on the ARB along with some dedicated folks, Sarah Latham, Susan Stevenson, our chair, and Alice Cooley, our counsel, along with Anne, Jackie, Julie, and then last night, Charlie, videographers. And we spent a long night together last night, and Julie could attest to that. Anyway, the absurd situation is this, ladies and gents, that it's harder to get the addition of a dormer approved than it is to demolish a house. Put the other way, it's easier to tear down a house, even one of historic value or presence in the neighborhood, than it is to improve it. So this is a situation, and it's existed for a while, that needs to be addressed and a change in the review process. I'm not looking to discuss it this evening or debate it this evening with you folks. I just wanted to alert you to the situation, the need for a change, and then tee up the notion of a solution that we and Alice Cooley are drafting, which is simply that all applications for demos of houses older than 50 years be subject to architectural to review by the ARB. So depending on the procedure, I'd like to see that as an agenda item at the next available meeting, and I'll work that out with Julie and obviously the folks on the ARB.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And on behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, we wanted to thank you for your service to the ARB. We know it's not an easy job. It's a big time commitment. So thank you again for your work on the board. And we're looking forward to working with you on that new piece of legislation.
Okay, great. Much appreciated. And we appreciate all the work you folks do. It takes a village.
Thank you, Jeff. So it does not look like there's any additional hand. Oh, okay, never mind. I see Jane Claire as well. Thank you, Jane.
Jane, just need to unmute yourself, please. Jane, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're fine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is now the time to talk about the Cooper's Beach possibility of wine and beer, or is that later in the meeting?
There is a public hearing, so I believe during the public hearing there will be the call for public comment, so it might be best to do it at that point.
Hold to there. Okay, thank you very much. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Okay. With that being said, we will move forward to our discussion items. The first discussion item is Southampton in the streets. As most of us know, we are all looking forward to closing down Main Street and Job's Lane to pedestrians only. We think it'll be very exciting, a very good opportunity for businesses, for restaurants, for outdoor seating, and really to help our local businesses and to help our community. We just obviously need to do a resolution tonight, but we wanted to just discuss a few open-ended items. So Russell, I'll let you take this from here. If you might just want to update the viewers tonight and just kind of let us know where we are with that, and so we can prepare a resolution if need be for the end of the meeting.
Well, the part that I want to add is that I do know that a number of members of the Board of Trustees and the mayor have been discussing an idea of expanding commerce, and by doing so, they thought it would be a good idea to close Job's Lane and Main Street to vehicular traffic at specific times, again, to encourage, given the fact that there are limitations to the number of people that can go into a retail store. Certainly indoor dining is still not on the table at this phase. And I believe that this was brought forth as a way to promote businesses and bring people downtown Southampton. I think I will ask the village attorney, after we have discussion, whether or not we need to be specific in our resolution with regards to dates and times, or the resolution can be broad enough that there is a mechanism that triggers the closing of those streets. But other than that, I think the folks that the mayor and the trustees who all had a hand in it and all had ideas of how this would look to weigh in and let the public know what the thoughts are.
Okay, if there's anyone who'd like to say anything, I'm open to all possibilities. I think this is a great idea, so long as we're, of course, listening to the business owners. And of course, this is just a pilot. So if it works well, great. If not, we don't have to move forward in the future. So is there any board members who'd like to comment?
Yeah, I'll start with some comments. I reached out to the board probably about a month ago, May, and just started to talk about this. Relaxing some rules, starting with outdoor dining. We started to find out that, a lot of municipalities, cities on our island and our, East End were starting to look at these things, and it was something that we started to chew on. And then as we got closer to the weather being nicer and really realizing this was going on a lot longer, tomorrow is going to be the start of phase 3, which permits 50% occupancy inside of restaurants, and retailers opening up 2 weeks ago to have people in. It was one of the things where, what can we do to help capture some more business for, retailers, merchants, and, dining. We've seen that the resurgence of outdoor dining, that's been good for not only business owners, but, people coming into the village. They feel safer. They feel that outside gives them a better chance of not being in direct contact. So it was one of the things that when I sent the email out, everybody was pretty much on board, and we were trying to work out some logistics. And, it is a pilot. It is going to be really dependent on the businesses to, really put their best foot forward and want to really stay open a little bit later. And again, as a village government, we can shut down roads, but we can't really, open up businesses and keep businesses open. It's going to really be a collaborative effort amongst, everybody involved in the downtown. We do have a beautiful downtown. The heart of our district is absolutely stunning. And it's a great way to, provide a pedestrian-only and safe atmosphere where we can really, hopefully this is the beginning of something that can be beneficial. And to reiterate to the mayor, when he replied, he was totally for it. And, he had mentioned, I originally had mentioned starting with Saturday being one day. He had thought about the ideas of doing two. So, and there was a couple different ways we could do it. But as I went through a lot of the meetings with traffic consultant, PD, and DPW, they felt that maybe the first, crack at it, we just shut down the streets. It could be a little bit easier. It's not perfect, but it's a way to go about it. And if this goes successfully, maybe we just start looking at parking spots only. So again, we do have a lot of parking behind our main street in Job's Lane. So there is a lot of access. And, someone told me about a month ago, this is a great time to get people to learn to change their habits. So, we do have access in between from parking lots through alleys to get onto Main and Job's. So we just figured that we'd go for it, and that's where we are right now.
I'll just add that in our business revitalization committee, we conducted some benchmarking, and also on our county calls that we participated on, we're hearing that other communities are doing this pretty successfully. Southold has done this for a few years, every weekend or 1 weekend a month. And then Greenport is commencing it. I think Up Island, many places are doing it rather successfully. What they told us is people like to come to the village because they really have nothing else to do, and the beach is cold at night and they want to walk around. They feel sometimes, people who are, immune compromised, that the sidewalks during the day are very narrow, and this gives everybody a tremendous opportunity to walk on a broader area and window shop, and hopefully the mom and pop stores stay open a bit later. But our outdoor dining can be enhanced according to the governor's orders. And in addition to that, we were thinking of spicing it up a bit with having, a sprinkle of things on each street. A sprinkle because it's not a festival, it's just something to create a nice ambiance for the people who come to the village. As a matter of fact, one of our shop owners who's on our committee said that the line from the ice cream store went all the way out to almost the corner of where Hampton Road meets. So it shows you there's a demand out there. And we wanted to try and pilot this because when you think about it, our businesses only have about 8 to 10 weekends in the summer where we really have a larger group of people coming. So that was part of the thinking. And phase 3 does begin this Wednesday, and it does allow indoor dining to increase up to 50% exclusive of staff. But as Trustee Parrish pointed out, many people still don't feel comfortable being inside. So this is not only a boost to dining and to invite people to the village and window shop and purchase ice cream, but also for our local businesses to stay open later and even showcase their goods on the sidewalk, which they're entitled to do.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Allen, for those comments, and thank you for attending, all of the many meetings. Brian, what's the next step here in order to take this from a concept to a reality?
So what I would do is, the first thing I would do is I would specify the hours and the days, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, and how many weeks you want to do it, and then what hours you'd want to do it for, and then the areas of closure. The chief pointed out that the village code gives him the ability to close the roads on your direction. So if you just specify what intersections to close, but I would do what hours, what days, and what areas you want closed as part of the resolution.
Can I just ask what exactly, just for clarity, so we are doing both evenings, and what exactly are we shutting down so the public knows? Closing down it's not shutting it down, it's shutting it down through vehicular traffic. So what exactly are we proposing?
Rich, we basically could do Friday or Saturday night or both. Ideally, when speaking to the business owners and the art center who said they're only prepared to do one night, personally, I love both, but I also think if we really wanted to maximize it, I think doing it on Saturday night would be the way to go. This way we can have all of the business owners, put all of their efforts into one night. We can do the pilot on Saturday. If it works well, we can do it 2 nights, 3 nights, every night if need be. But I would love to be able to, pilot this out and do it on Saturday night and have all the business owners put all their energies and efforts and give them 1 extra day of time to prepare. But if the board really thinks that we want to stretch it and do 2, I'm also open to that. So it's really open to anything. Ideally, being a business owner myself and speaking to other business owners, having a Saturday night would be ideal. Again, I spoke to Tom, chairperson, at the Art Center, who's running things, and his preference was Saturday. I spoke to Jennifer Miller. She loves Saturday. So again, up to the board. The good thing is we just want to really get this done either way.
And
I agree. I mean, I defer to the people who have been speaking to the business owners directly, which would be Trustee Allen and Trustee Parrish. If there's anything that either Chief Cummings or Gary Gillespie, DPW Soup, would like to opine on about it in any way, I would like to hear that now, if there's anything.
I would like this. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I spoke to Tom Dunn from the SAC about 45 minutes ago, and his concern is because he had originally heard that it was only one night, and we had understood based on the email exchanges that we would attempt to do 2 nights per your recommendation. So he didn't plan on staffing one of the evenings. He's since worked that out, and he has indicated to us that he's also worked out the music because Jennifer Miller had wanted to have music on Saturday. So he would put his music on Friday, and then we'd have 2 evenings of, some nice music coming out on the street. So that's just breaking news. And then in addition, we did poll some of the businesses, and they seem to be favorable for both evenings. We also have a high school graduation Friday afternoon. Rich, you and I spoke about that. And they're going to be, I don't know where that ended up, but we have a lot of high school students with, cap and gowns, and not sure they have places to go. And it might be nice to have a place for them to stroll and take pictures on.
Fine with that. Chief, did you get any clarity on when about the graduation plans?
Not yet. I expect to hear tomorrow. It's going to be hard for us because if it's the full route that they at least told us in the beginning that the plan would be, I'm going to be maxed out on my staffing to handle that, and to keep guys to do the Friday night thing is going to be, we'll do it, but it's going to be tough. Saturday would be better for us this week.
Friday is possible, stretching it, but it'd be easier if the high school parade does not go through the village downtown. Is that correct?
Yeah, we need less people so we could do the Friday night road closure easier.
What time is that planned, Chief Cummings?
It's supposed to start at 2. I have the lieutenants checking on it because I got some updated information today that it would be a different route than we have planned for. If it's the different route, then I'll have plenty of people to handle the Friday night road closure. If it's the original plan that we had, it's pretty much the whole police department's going to be working to do the graduation.
Chief, can I ask what does it mean on a weekend night to have street closures, from, I'll say 6:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. from a staffing perspective, twice a week?
That's going to, I'm guessing somewhere in the area of 24 to 30 hours overtime each night. Because right now we have 1 foot person, but we'd have to handle all the main intersections. We could barricade the alleys, but we'll have that regular patrol, like a foot patrol, and we'll have to staff the intersections because people tend to not want to they move the barricades, to be honest with you. So until the village gets used to this, it's going to be labor intensive for us.
All right. If I just a couple things, just the Friday night we were interested in DPW. It's just thinking that if we had Friday and Saturday as a dry run, then that gives us 2 nights to figure everything out before 4th of July weekend comes. So we were interested in that. I've been dealing with Chris Wetter. He probably told you, Tom, we do have a series of concrete blocks that we're going to be using in the roadway. So I think once we get those blocks in place, we don't have to worry about dining people in the streets.
I'm not, well, we'll have to talk about it tomorrow when we meet, but I'm concerned about getting fire trucks and ambulances in. So we may not want to do that.
Right, and what we also talked about was leaving a 14-foot lane that we could use metal barricades to have a fire lane down the center of Main Street, and like a table-free zone would be good.
Okay.
The one thing we want to talk about tomorrow too, I want PD's input, is we're looking at 6:30 to 11:30, and I heard a 5:30 close to get cars out. And I want to make sure the police department can get those cars out in an hour, or the majority of them, because we have like 150 cars that could be in there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the board's going to authorize us to tow, because that usually creates a lot of acrimony.
So
That's what we've done in the past for 4th of July, correct, Chief?
Yes.
So usually we've exercised that authority once a year. So
And we usually give a pretty good amount of notice to people.
Correct.
So that they're not there.
okay.
Right. Now, if the board does this, we can put signage up tomorrow to let people know in advance of the event, and we might want to go store by store so any of those employees who are parking on the street would know that they have to move their cars.
Yeah, and that's
should
labor
do.
intensive for us too. We have to try and find the owners of these cars that we don't want to tow.
That's the main thing. I have no problem doing it Friday and Saturday night, but Friday is off of a weekday and cars be parked. And so as long as you have enough leeway to do what the chief is to notify people that the signage.
To your point, Rich, if there's a rogue car parked there and they didn't get the message, would they still be able to drive out through that middle lane, or is that considered a pretty big hazard?
Chief, Gary?
Well, when we met with Officer Wetter, he did say that he would have staff there allowing people to circle around and get them out the easiest way. And again, the chief's point, there's some overtime, things to look at. And, again, this is our first crack at it. And, it's good to hear some of the other points. I know Gary has some viewpoints, and then Officer Wetter put some really good plans together for deterring and where certain routes are going to have to make, turns before to avoid coming into the village. So, there is a lot to look at, but again, this is where we are, and the appetite for people wanting this has been pretty evident through, people reaching out and saying they'd like to see something like this. So, I mean, I'm good for either. Again, my first was a Saturday. That was my original, email I sent out. I could do either or. The reason why Friday popped up was because a lot of it had to do with the high school. And so we thought about that. Could they end up circling around and, coming over and being able to just, do something, spend some time with some friends and be able to grab something to eat on the street, an ice cream or anything like that. So I think that's where that came from. And that was sort of like a later addition.
And we have the chalk art too.
Right.
So the youth committee and the library has donated chalk to us, and we're going to get your opinion, Gary, to designate a few spots on both Jobs and Main and allow, our next generation to partake in chalk art. And it would be on both evenings. So we would just want to cordon off a couple spots where they could do that. And then, of course, the restaurants would want to push their tables out. And Brian, we communicated a little earlier, but just if we could just get a little guidance to what we can pass to them so they know, what their next steps are. I know under the umbrella permit, you had indicated they were okay.
Yeah, so, I think I'm gonna return to that in a second, just to keep the conversation focused. The board just has to approve the hours, have to approve the days, and have to approve the area of closure. With regard to the SLA enforcement, again, all SLA regulations, state liquor authority regulations stay in effect. Their open container law remains in effect. You have to consume alcoholic beverages, either takeaway to consume at your home or to consume at a seat at a table. It's not a congregating fair situation. There is no waiver of the open alcohol container rule. That remains in full effect. And the SLA and our police are going to enforce that. So just want to be cautious that that's what that is. Even though you can take these away, they are for consumption somewhere else, not for consumption on the sidewalk or on the streets. So always want to be crystal clear about that as well. And any service by restaurants must be immediately adjacent to their restaurant. So if you're in front of your restaurant, roughly, say if it's 100 feet, go out to 100 feet, and that's your area. Either side, if you're on a corner, to figure out. But you have to be under the regulations. You must be adjacent to your restaurant for service.
Counselor, to that end, if I just may, because I think you and I have discussed this because people point this out by observing it. So when you say in the SLA, when you say open container law, that does not, make people free for them to walk around the village with one of these because of that. But there have been concessions made because of the phases and the governor's EO that you can consume the beverages within the vicinity of the establishment that is serving it. Where in the past you may not have been able to. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, no, you have to. There's no service at bars, and you can't congregate. And if you're there congregating, you have to have a mask on. If you have a mask on, you can't consume a beverage. So you've got to be seated for no mask inside a restaurant situation of service. So, I mean, I think just with that, and also inevitably, everyone should brace themselves for the uptick in social distancing complaints, which are going to result when you put more than now 25 people near each other. You will result in, there will be a significant uptick. So everyone just has to steel themselves for that inevitability that will come if there is at least one person who does not choose to wear the mask. Those complaints will come. But I think I have faith. I think we'll be able to do it, and I think we'll be successful at it. But just brace yourself for those kind of things that come.
Yes.
But I think to the mayor's point of what the board just needs to move off onto this item to the next point is the hours, the days, and the area of closure.
So hours 6:30 to 11 or 11:30 because it allows people to leave the area where their stores close, in the 6 range. And it's kind of the transition from the folks who don't want to stay there to the kind of casual dining mom and pop store remaining open. So 6:30 to 11, 6:30 to 11:30. We had indicated 6:30 to 11:30 in our email.
Yeah, that's correct.
We allow the police to close the street at 4:30. I mean, you could do it at 5:30, but just make a resolution that they could close it at 4:30 if that comes up in the future.
Okay.
Gary, I would actually say that, we obviously want to pilot this for the evening, but I do know it would probably disrupt some of the businesses who have a lot of business on Saturday night at 4:30. So that is actually would be a concern, the business interruption to the non-restaurants in the evening. So the later we could, get going on that, the better. I wouldn't want to disrupt, the many merchants who are just trying to make it back from being closed for 3.5 months and losing Saturday, which is usually the best day of the week for businesses.
All right, and I understand that. Just saying that we give the police a little more broad authority, time-wise, and we still say they close everything at 5:30. But if it comes up, you don't want to pass another resolution in the future that you want to do it at 5, or that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think that we do 5:30 as notice that out, and I guess Gary, you can put signs, and we had spoken about that out and really started to notice that out. But generally, we all felt, and really for the merchants, is that we don't want to stop very much during the day right now because they are still trying to recover and trying to get that. And by about then, I feel we'd have another, let's say people that want to come into town and start walking around and with beautiful weather, and then want to sit down and the table on the street and grab something to eat and just continue to walk, look at some of the stores, purchase things, and just really just have a nice relaxing time. And by 11:30, I think that is a good time to end it down. And it's about a 5-hour swing. So shut it down at 5:30, 6:30 we start.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Let's just say, I guess for now then, Saturday we'll get going and closing at 5:30. We'll get started at 6:30. See how it goes. If it goes well, we'll do it all summer.
Okay.
So the question, the quick question I have, because I've kind of written a resolution. We're going to start. So what I'm hearing is we're going to start it on this Saturday. I'll look the date up. But it will then continue for Friday and Saturdays. Do we want to put a date of our next meeting or our second meeting in July as kind of a sunset? And then if it's going well at that meeting, we could extend it. How do you want to do that?
I think that this really is just a pilot. And then from here, we'll be able to reassess. I don't think we're ready to, at least in where I'm sitting, I'm not really ready to say we're going to do it every Saturday. I just thought this weekend would be a good way to start it. And then, we can look at it after that, see how it goes, what the interest was on both sides, businesses as well as, people coming in. And if it's something that it's a beginning of something that could be really positive, and we can do any other day. We can do a Thursday. A lot of municipalities do Thursdays, but I think the idea here is to just do it.
Are you intending to do it on 4th of July weekend? And the reason I'm asking that is because you don't have another board meeting until July 9th.
Right. As of today, has there been discussion? There's been a few, but nothing's been defined. I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
I guess we could pass the resolution, Brian, that would be inclusive of the 4th of July weekend, and the board does not necessarily have to invoke their right to close it. Is that correct?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
You authorize them to do it, subject to recall by the board. And then also, what is the area?
Main Street and Job's Lane.
And where's the cut though, Brian? Counselor, you're asking, so the crosswalk where Sean's is just before Le Chef, that's kind of what we were thinking. That also allows people to pull into that parking lot nicely. There's a number of ADA spots as well. So that will be helpful.
That's
and
fine. As long as Chief's do.
On the flip side, Mayor, your store is closest there. Do you think the boundary of Main and Hampton Road?
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
So those are the boundaries.
We just go back to the other end because I want to get Tom's opinion. When I talked to Chris, we were going to close right down, right at the intersection of Hill and Windmill so that the cars couldn't make it through there and get stuck in that little dead end. So
when we did
across there and put across the monument to the parking lot.
when we did Septemberfest, it worked better.
Yeah,
Allowing people to go into O'Connell Drive.
yeah. A lot of people use the parking lot behind there, so we have to allow access.
Right. We leave that open, but do we put the blockade there where you're just saying across that crosswalk, or do you allow, Monument Square to come through the backside by the park and enter, and then close at the main intersection?
I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
If I say O'Connell Drive, that should cover it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can adjust as we see how things are going.
Yep, that's the rough area.
Gastropub, to Gastropub be included that way?
Yeah, we just have to have access to that parking lot. However, we figure out how to do that.
Okay, so that's your resolution.
All right, thank you, Brian. So we'll keep on proceeding here. We've got quite a few discussion items and communications to the board and one public hearing tonight. So the next is the mask project. Maybe Russell, you can kind of bring us up to speed on this quickly.
Yes. So real quick, there's been some discussion. There was a project done in Sag Harbor Village. The board was sent a memo that described what it was. It is a 18 foot by 24 inch banner pennant that hangs on light poles. And what it does is it features the village. It features either a frontline first responder or essential worker, local, that everyone locally would recognize. And it basically says, wear a mask and please do so for your neighbors and friends. So in order for the board to weigh whether or not they thought it was a good idea, Julie and I engaged with the gentleman Rob Weinstein, who tailored the project and ran the project in Sag Harbor. We put a whole portfolio together. If the board's interested, we could get it up and running in a week. But again, we just wanted to have the information as to what it entails, give an idea to the board as to what it would take to do. And if the board pleases, we're ready to rock and roll. The cost would not exceed approximately $5,000 in total. I do know that there's been some comments from board members. I know there's been comments from the superintendent of DPW with some concerns about some damage to the light poles and some repairs or painting that may need to be done later. But again, not to go into too much detail unless there's a majority of the board that feels they want to move forward with this.
Russell, I would say, to the public in this one, it doesn't seem like I've got support here, but this is something I think has been very successful in Sag Harbor. We're seeing a spike in coronavirus cases in certain states throughout the country. Florida had over 3,000 coronavirus cases just yesterday, new positive tests. Also increases in new hospital admissions. People in Florida are not staying in Florida. They're traveling around the country. Likely they'll be coming here too. And so the safest, best thing we can do is wear a mask and to socially distance. And if this campaign would help even one super spreader who's asymptomatic or who got and has symptoms, I think it's very helpful. It's been really successful in Sag Harbor. I just got off the phone with Mayor Mulcahy, said it's been extremely successful there. I would love to have the board's support here, but we obviously need 3 votes to pass a resolution. And personally, I'd love to see if we would have those 3 votes here. I'm very passionate about this project. Everyone knows how committed I am to have people wear masks, passing them out in the street in my free time, the little that I have. So I just would love to hear some comments, then we can move forward. If we don't have the votes here, we don't have the votes, but I would at least like just everyone to kind of state their position.
Yeah, I'll start off. I replied that I really wasn't crazy about it. At this point, we're 3 months in, and we've been really conditioned to wear masks on a daily basis. It's actually become part of our routine to the point where, if you don't have it in your pocket or have it in your car, there's sort of a panic that sets off, and at least me and some other, people that I've come across. Again, it's it is a good thing. We do have a big banner as you come to Southampton Village. I do know we do have signs all along the individual stores too. So, it is definitely something that is always you're looking at. But I just don't, coming into July to have banners put up and with some of the comments that, Gary had made and things like that, and with the cost of it, not just fully supportive of it.
I'll echo Trustee Parrish. Again, a well-intentioned idea. I know where it's coming from. I know what it's intended to do. Again, having now been around all this, as we all have for, going on 4 months, the message is out there. Again, I think it's a well-intentioned project. I'm just not sure whether the money spent on it is a risk-reward type of venture that I think is, that I feel spending money on and going after. Which, as Trustee Parrish said, I think a lot of people are conditioned into doing it. Mayor, you're right. There are areas spiking now, some which are spiking because they've been anticipated to, because they were further away from us. We were the beginning of it, and it worked its way west, so to speak, and south. But I think as an area, we've had some of the best numbers compared to peers, compared to counties, compared to towns and villages and the state and so forth. So, as Trustee Parrish said, I think I think people get it. I think it's a nice campaign. It's a nice so forth. But I think going into a holiday weekend, 4th of July, which we do put other things out, I think somebody mentioned that it could be a little cluster of banners and information and so forth. So again, good message, well-intentioned. I just think we could put the money elsewhere towards something. So no, I'm not particularly for the idea. Sorry.
Okay. Trustee Allen.
Yes, I actually like the idea a lot, and I like it for the following reasons. I think as the summer progresses, people's guard is going to come down. So that's one piece. And I know we have a lot of signs around the village, but what's really cute about this, and I don't know what Mayor Mulcahy said to you, Mayor, is that this incorporates pictures of our local community. So I mentioned this to somebody at Stop and Shop and somebody at CVS, and they would love to be on one of these banners. And I think it shows that we're an ecosystem. So even though everybody's trying and we're not here to admonish people, this is in a way a gentle and kind way of demonstrating that we're an ecosystem. And if someone isn't wearing their mask, to remember that they could really harm someone even if they don't mean to. So I thought it was nice. I don't like the logistical problems that Gary laid forward, but I actually thought it was a nice idea. So
if we were to go offer up a resolution, would you second it?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And Trustee Polaro?
I was in Sag Harbor today, and I saw the signs that they have, and I do think it's awareness, which is a good thing. But I also then look at the cost and look at what Gary sent around, and so I would love to learn a little bit more about what happened last time when banners were up and why we had to repaint all of our poles from the last one, because I think it turns, if that were to happen again, it would turn something that is well intended and doesn't seem that costly at more than $5,000 and could be potentially much greater cost to the village if we had to do that. So I would love to learn a little bit more about that before saying yay or nay to it.
May I just say something that I understand that Trustee Polaro talked about a little more time, and I understand our next meeting isn't until July 9th, but this is kind of a question of Brian. I know from a financial standpoint, I would be comfortable. This $5,000 would be coming likely out of an account that that if we had the signatures of 3 board members on a purchase requisition and voucher, it would pass the muster of the Treasury. I don't necessarily know if we need to have a resolution to expend money to put things on a poll. So if it's something that people need a day or two to think about, and it only takes us a week to get up, we could still have them up prior to the 4th of July, and people could have an opportunity to weigh more in, and we could just get 3 signatures on a purchase requisition. So,
Russell, if I can just, it is a week for the printing and the installation.
Okay.
So we need the lead time for scheduling the photographer and actually doing the photo sessions. So
Okay.
it'll be a bit more than a week.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's a creative solution. I'm fine with that. I think that's a good idea, Russell. If you have the 3 votes.
All right, thank you, Russell. I would only add here that Dr. Fauci, just said the next 2 weeks are going to be critical and will essentially make or break what happens as far as whether the state and really the country is successful. So to do something so small, to put up banners that has been so successful in Sag Harbor, that has really had, the lion's share, the large majority of the community loving it, thinking it's so successful. Robert Ross from the hospital talked about how successful it was and how he would support it. We can't wait anymore. This is a great project. It is what it is. We're one board, we're one team here. I'm pushing hard for this. I want that to be publicly known. I understand that some trustees are not in support of this, but I think
I'm in. It is. It's again, Russell laid it out a little bit better, Brian. So no, I'm in.
Okay.
Also, if I may add one more thing, I will work hard tomorrow to see if we can find a couple of sponsors if you're interested. If money's an issue, we can certainly, we have people who who enjoy, sponsoring things in this village, we
Good idea.
could look at that.
Okay.
All right,
There you
excellent.
go.
Okay, perfect. All right, next is the Rogers Mansion exterior renovations, architectural work for grant application.
So essentially, when we put together a list of priorities with our at the time one grant writer, one of the items that we were asked to move forward with was exterior renovations to the Rogers Mansion. Gary can probably explain what that means, and so we're queuing up that grant as the deadline is normally in mid-July, maybe a little bit later this year. And in order to do that, we need some architectural drawings. And so the cost on those architectural drawings would be about $3,000 for us to submit. We could include the $3,000 in our ask for the grant, and then pay a portion of later on when the project materializes. But that's really all this is. And if anyone has any questions about what those renovations are, either Gary or others who are involved with the History Museum could weigh in.
Thank you, Russell. Next discussion item is the Lake Agawam, New York State DEC Wetlands Pesticide Permit application.
Again, this is something that the board, in its joint meeting with the Board of Trustees at the town of Southampton, spoke about, and Gary can speak about what projects these are specifically for. It's very time sensitive. We have had some dialogue. Gary had some dialogue today with Eric Schultz from the trustees. I have started to have some dialogue with the town with regards to the request we had of using some town planning staff if the village is ponying up for most of the expenses here. However, this application is very time sensitive, and there's a need to get it in if we want to put the hydrogen peroxide in a timely fashion prior to the water getting too warm. And so we're looking for the okay from the board to have Nelson Pope and Voorhees. They are for something like this, they've already written a number of environmental. They've got the background and the back work on this particular issue, and it would be the most expedient way to get it done. So we're just looking for confirmation that that this is important enough to get it moving.
Excellent. I think we're all in support of this one. This is a project that we're all, for those who are listening, we're all very excited about in collaboration with the New York State DEC, Lake Agawam Conservancy, and the town trustees. We're going to be doing another pilot program of hydrogen peroxide coupled with a microsonic device to disrupt the harmful algae bloom. So we'll see how it goes, but we should definitely move as quickly as we can. And you wanted to thank we have our Clean Water Committee here as well for their help, and Janice, who's been helping the Lake Agawam Conservancy for some of the work she's been doing for this permitting application. So Russell and our village trustees, thank you very much for the help here. The next is beach operations and permits to review the temporary rules. Russell, I don't know if you want to take that, or Trustee Parrish, if you'd like to. Either way, just would like to we do a quick recap here.
So I'll just give a quick update of a report that we received from Matt Weeks and from his weekend debriefing, and I had a couple of other conversations with him. Daily pass inquiries over the weekend was up to 53. The renting of umbrellas, it was a little bit lighter than we thought it would be, only 18 requests. They reviewed, if the board was interested, a methodology for sanitizing chairs. They used a series of methods and they used different guidance to get it, and feel as though they have a thorough technique and would be prepared. Limit the number that they would do for the first couple of weeks until they really get the technique down and see how it goes. But again, that would be a board decision. And as the board knows, that we passed some temporary rules restricting certain sales of beach passes. We spoke of that it would be through June 26th. The board could just extend that through July 9th. We could look at it again. Some of the areas that we could take into consideration are daily passes. Are there a number of daily passes that we want to sell on certain days? Do we want to sell daily passes on weekdays now that we're open 7 days a week and we really don't have, we don't really come anywhere near capacity on weekdays. And there are a lot of people who take day trips during the week that if they know that they can come and pay for a day pass, we could start with weekdays. Again, expanding the summer visitor pass. We've got a lot of inquiries for people who buy them every year. People who live outside of the fire district and a school district, or people who rent for the summer just outside of the village. A lot of them like to buy daily passes. It does seem like we have capacity, but we may want to wait until after 4th of July to address that one. And I think that's really the only things that I would bring forward. After we have that discussion, I have one more thing to bring up about the beaches. But so any input, whether we want to just extend as is, we want to extend and amend, that's what we can discuss right here now.
I've gotten a lot of feedback from residents who have been very happy with the capacity at the beaches up until this point. They've actually been very thankful that, they feel pretty good that it's not, being too overrun in their opinion. I did speak to Matt. I know Andrew had a long conversation with Matt also about the beach chairs. When I emailed with Matt about a week ago, I wasn't on board with that yet. I was still a little bit concerned about how, the way that they were going to sanitize, it was going to be done correctly. And, coming on into July 4th, I still have some concerns about, this is going to be a big weekend. If they get overrun and they're not really prepared yet, what's that going to be like? So I'm totally fine with extending this to July 9th. I'd like to hear some other opinions. Andrew, what was your conversation with Matt? Because I know you did speak with him also.
Yeah, I spoke with Matt about chairs, and at the last meeting, we talked, last time I talked to him, he was talking about umbrellas and if they'd be easier to clean because it's just a center pole. The Beach Boys would be putting it up. They would be wearing gloves. And same with the chairs. I know there are other areas in this village that are going to be renting chairs. They will be cleaned on a daily basis. There is a way to do it with a hydrogen peroxide solution that they are using and then leaving it to kind of dry overnight. That will protect and clean. So I really, again, as Gary said, one of the things for having the Friday and Saturday for the weekend would be so that you have a dry run so that you can learn from it. I think it would be the same thing. We've had a little bit of a dry run with the umbrellas. I think that it would be fine for them to go ahead and do chairs and to start doing it now, again, so you have the practice, you have the dry run for doing these things so that when they can get busy, they can understand and the beach attendants will know what to do. And again, it becomes second nature for them. The more you practice, the easier it gets, the better it gets done. It's the same thing, it's the same thing at Mark as or Trustee Parrish, as you said, with masks. You feel bad if you don't have a mask going into the village, if you have forgotten one. It's almost like, all right, I'm going to circle back home and get it, or where can I get one? Because you do see people, doing this or with their shirts or whatever, and you just don't feel comfortable sometimes, walking behind them or beside them, even 6 feet. So yes, the more practice you get, the better it is. So that's with regards to the beach chairs.
So Matt had a recommendation on just doing a limited amount to start, right? Was it about 50?
Limited amount to start, and they would be, again, they would be put out for the day, and then collected, and then wiped down every night. It would not be that they would, go out when those people leave. They'd go be picked up, cleaned, and be put back out. It would actually have a process where they would be, sanitized once a day.
And umbrellas are definitely a lot easier too, and those are pretty valuable, especially as we're getting hotter now and with the
Exactly.
sunlight. So,
and it's also, as you know, I think Matt had said too, the safety, you know, of some of the cheaper umbrellas that people were bringing to try and protect themselves from the sun and protect their kids from the sun, especially with the wind we had, became projectiles and you know, were cause for safety. So that was something too. I think it was good to get the heavier umbrellas that really go down in and kind of grab. So that is good for me. With regards to beach and sales of stickers and daily passes, again, I think that as long as we can maintain the capacity restrictions that are put forth from the state, then I don't think it would hurt to really start looking to expand it a little. And maybe, as you know, it was mentioned, daily passes could be during the week for the next little bit, and then maybe expand some of the summer visitor passes as well, for some of the people that, you know, that might buy a second one if they are out here and all of that. So it certainly adds a little bit of revenue to the village, and you know, it could bring more people down to the beaches as well, and get some enjoyment out of it. So I don't have an issue starting to think about that as well, especially as we enter phase 3 tomorrow.
For Russ, can I just clarify? So the question is whether we extend the restrictions that we have or whether we loosen them to allow operations, sales of umbrellas or chairs or what have you, expand on that, and to loosen the restrictions and allow sales of daily and or other beach passes. Is that correct?
Right. So there are two parts.
Which I'm for, by the way. I mean, which as Trustee Polaro said, you know, they got the science down. They've been working on it. And the worst, if it becomes too cumbersome for them, we could always, you know, they have the ability to pull it back. So I have no problem loosening restrictions as we go into the third phase.
So real quickly, there are two parts. The parts that are done by resolution are whether or not we want to loosen or start to sell daily passes in the next section of, you know, the next, you know, between now and July 9th, and whether or not you want those daily passes to be sold every day, or you want to start weekdays. First we have to extend the resolution that we passed on July 26th. And if you wanted to amend, so it would be extend and amend to add the sale of daily passes either on weekdays or all days. The renting of chairs is just something that just simply the board needs to say, just like we did with umbrellas. It was under the practices section of the resolution that could just be changed administratively. And so the two things that we would need to amend the resolution for is if you wanted to expand summer visitor passes and whether or not you wanted to start selling limited number of daily passes.
Fine with that.
All right, I think we can move on here. By the way, I just wanted to mention that that our beach, we'll call it beach department, it's all in the DPW. You know, Trustee Parrish, Trustee Pilar, you guys have done a really good job. So you know, I'm fully behind you. You know, so far it's been phenomenal, getting great feedback. So just wanted to publicly say that. So, and that being said, next discussion item. Again,
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but I did mention I do need to mention two things. One is they're both very positive. One, all of our lifeguard trainees, 6 of them passed their lifeguard certification, and I just got that news. In doing so, that would mean that they get a change in rate pay. So I'm going to ask to add a resolution at the bottom, at the end of our suggested resolutions to make that adjustment for them. It's not that much, but because they're certified lifeguards, they do move up to the next rank in pay. And the second piece of great news is that one of our lifeguards, and I did not get permission yet to say his name, but one of our Cooper's Beach lifeguards saved a young boy this past Friday at Cooper's Beach during his off hours. He happened to be walking down to the water when he noticed the young boy yell out and was being swept out by the current. The lifeguard basically said it was a very, very simple save. However, the father of the young boy was very, very grateful. And he said, thank you so much. And he wanted that passed on to the board.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Russell, for the good news. We should definitely also send the lifeguard a thank you letter as well. We'll move quickly here. Number 6 is art in the park, farmers market. Russell, you can take that. And number 7 is the vacant storefronts, and Brian can take that one.
Okay, so art in the park has already been approved by the village board, and it was scheduled for July 12th. Obviously, it was subject to the restrictions of any executive orders. They would like to, and they have a plan of how to do it in conjunction with the farmers market, have social distancing, have the spacing. Art in the park is not one of the events that gets hordes of people. It's not a festival that brings in hundreds and hundreds. It's a daily thing that it's something that people take a day trip to, walk through, and then go to the various stores. So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention, and we don't have to pass a resolution because we've already passed one, but they are looking for permission to go forward as long as they are following the guidelines of the executive order. And again, Brian, you would need to weigh in, obviously, as to whether or not that's would be an issue or not.
As long as they're complying with what the ag markets put out very detailed regulations with regard to farmers markets. I know that the mayor, certainly the trustees are on those calls, or we're on those calls with the county. So as long as they're in compliance, it shouldn't really be an issue.
All right. Thank you very much. Brian, do you want to take the vacant storefronts? And maybe you might want to open, basically, pass a resolution tonight for a public hearing at another date.
Yes.
I do have a drafted resolution. If the board is interested, that will be an add-on after we do the resolution for the lifeguards.
All right. So maybe we'll just move forward. We'll get to that later in the meeting. So we can move to the public hearing section, and we've got a local law amending section 86.8 of Article 2, Cooper's Neck Beach of the Village Code to regulate alcoholic beverages. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Brian, this might be you here, or if you'd like to explain, or we can open up the comment.
Yep, I'll take it. Thank you, Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees. This is a public hearing to amend Article 86 with regard to the consumption of alcoholic beverages as limited to those people holding a concession, a license with the Village of Southampton, which in practical purposes is only that concession at Cooper's Beach. 82-3 prohibits alcoholic beverages except when it's consumed on a village sidewalk or area when that is sold pursuant to a concession issued by the village. However, section 86-8 goes beyond that exception and says that there shall be no alcoholic beverages at any time within a municipal bathing facility and parking area. So to reconcile those two sections, the proposed amendment tonight would just permit if a license is issued at the municipal bathing facility, which in this case there is, that within a village sidewalk, patio, or area down there only, not roaming anywhere else, but within that immediate area, alcoholic beverages would be allowed to be consumed if sold by the licensee.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. So with that being said, I believe we can open this up to any public comment regarding the public hearing. I do believe that we're prepared as a board to pass this tonight, but if anyone would like to make a comment, we're open for that. If not, we can make a motion to close, if that's okay.
Just a question. Do we know what Mashud and Cupsog are doing? Because they have concession stands with alcohol as well.
They would be permitted if it's permitted in their license agreement.
In their license agreement. Okay, so that's the premise here.
Yes, it has to be permitted within their license agreement.
Okay.
There was
That's right.
somebody who
Like
wanted to speak earlier.
There
from the
was,
public,
there
is-
was
is
someone
she
who
still-
wanted to speak earlier and has raised
Jane,
her
Claire,
hand.
there's
Jane Claire is, I'm going to bring her in now. Okay. Jane, if you can just unmute.
All right, I think I unmuted.
Perfect.
Like the picture.
And I just wanted to congratulate everyone for what a fabulous job you're doing with all the upheaval we've had in the last several months. And I'm just really impressed sitting here listening to the meeting, everything that's being done to help our village. And I wanted to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
As for Cooper's, it just sounds like it's a natural fit. So I wanted to just be able to say that. It does not seem to be anything wrong with doing it, so I'm all for it. And that's my input.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Okay.
If anyone else has any other input, you can raise your hand. If not, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Again, if the board so desires, at the end of the suggested resolutions, we can add a resolution to adopt this local law, the amendment of this local law, you know, at the board's pleasure.
Thank you, Russell. I would love to do that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you to everybody as well. Okay, we have two communications to the board. Russ, I don't know if you want to quickly run through this. We also could basically post this to the village website, so we can, we could obviously keep this brief. We'll just, make this, communicate this to everyone.
They are currently posted to the village website as attachments to tonight's meeting. The first communications is from the Board of Trustees and freeholders of the town. Basically, they're further extending the expiration date for their trustee permits and licenses till July 8th, 2020 in the suggested resolutions, because we've mirrored this expiration date for the drive-on permits. With them, there is a resolution for us to do similar. The second correspondence is from the co-chairs of the Southampton Village Clean Water Committee. Both of them, both of the memorandums commend the village board for its joint meeting and enthusiastically supports the adoption of the Rehab Action Plan. They do speak about and are looking for the board to also adopt the Lake Agawam 2020 Management Plan and Summary, and had a few other comments regarding the synergy between the plans.
Thank you very much, Russell. We now can move to suggested resolutions. Again, you can start with it's resolution 2 because we've got the public hearing there, but I'll let you take this as well, Russell. Thank you again.
All right. Entertain a motion to resolve the reading of the minutes for the special joint meeting of June 10th, 2020, and the public session of June 11th, 2020 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby ratified and approved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Entertain a motion to resolve the claims and warrants dated June 23rd, 2020, totaling $25,835.44. Warrant number 3, general fund of the 1920 fiscal year, and $46,428.34. Warrant number 2 of the general fund. $175,890.42. Warrant number 1, capital reserve, and $3,000 warrant number 2 of the trust fund, and the village payrolls for the period June 5th, 2020 to June 19th, 2020 be ordered and approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Just real quickly, the only out of the ordinary or larger expenditures were the capital reserve, and those were 3 bills for the ambulance barn, which, by the way, there will be some news coming out as to the move over to the new ambulance barn coming, I'm going to say, either later this week or at the beginning of next week. No other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to resolve the Board of Trustees hereby extends the 2019 4x4 drive-on permits until July 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees sets the 2020 surf lessons license fee at $2,750.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the village administrator to reimburse the 2020 outdoor license application fees paid by establishments prior to the fee waiver.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the resignation of Robert Coburn from the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation as a holdover from the expired term ending June 30, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the following purchases from Capital Reserve, subject to permissive referendum. 1 disaster recovery system network switches server and 2 monitors for the fire department and fire equipment from Fire Equipment Capital Reserve, $38,707. 3 truck chargers and thermal cameras for the fire department from Fire Equipment Capital Reserve, $26,140. And 2 MTS power load systems for the ambulance department from First Responder Major Equipment Capital Reserve, $45,859.50.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Russell, I just had one quick question here. As you know, I brought this up. All sounds good to me, but I was under the impression that regarding our server, most businesses and municipalities are moving to a cloud-based server. So I know we need a new server. That's without a doubt, and we need to do that quickly. But should we be looking for a cloud-based server? I think one of the things, the lessons we've all learned during the quarantine and during COVID-19 is a lot of people are now working remotely, and you know, an on-site server may be a thing of the past. So I just want to make sure if we're, you know, spending the $38,000 that we're actually purchasing the right server. And my preference, again, is just to explore cloud-based a little bit more before doing so. I don't want to hold up our system here, but can we do a little more research on a cloud-based server? I mean, the goal is not to make more work. It's just simply to make sure we're covering our bases here.
Okay. So here's the response that was received from Sean Crudler, Island Tech Services, who is the Southampton Village Fire Department's.
I saw that response. Sorry to cut you off. My apologies. Yes. Of course, that individual is probably selling on-site servers. So
well, they do both. They do both. They actually could price out for us a simply cloud-based as well. So we could get a quote from them on that as well if you want. I mean, again, we could pull that particular purchase. You know, it's been in the hopper. It's not, but obviously, yeah, at some point in time, there's some concern about you know, its firewall and other issues of it. I know, Chief, you share.
I was just going to say, Russell, I was going to ask you to expound. Thank you. You just started touching on that. Haven't there been some concerns in that field about the safety as far as hackability for cloud as opposed to having your own server?
You know, I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in.
Nor am I. I'm just regurgitating what I've heard as the reasons why they want this. But have you heard the same thing?
I know that given the need and the emergency services aspect of the police department and the fire department, that the people that they have spoken to state that this is the safer method. But again, I can't speak on my expertise in it.
No, that's fine. No, I'm not asking you to. Chief, do you have any, again, having quite an extensive network and the whole 911 system in your own building, do you have any thoughts on this, Chief?
We've been dealing with a lot of different vendors, including Motorola, which is obviously international, and they recommend an on-site server with a cloud backup, which is what we do. So, you know, we have servers here, and everything on the server is also backed up to the cloud. So we have redundancy there, which is what we need. If anything fails, we can recover it.
And I'm correct, this is the server that is shared by the police department, correct?
Well, it's in our building, but it's a fire department piece of equipment. They have a Red Alert as their records management software, and this runs their records management software. as far as I know. Could be something else, but that's my understanding.
So all the systems we have are, the servers as the primary and cloud as backup.
Yeah.
We don't have a secondary backup server. So we have, for the police department, you have the primary server there along with the primary server for the fire department.
Yes.
But the backup to the police department is an iCloud, but the backup to the fire department is not in an iCloud.
I couldn't tell you whether it is or not. I would imagine it probably would be, since that seems to be the standard now.
Okay. And then for the village, our server is located where?
I would probably say Village Hall,
Okay.
somewhere.
We have no backup server anywhere else, not even with our tech vendor?
Yes, we absolutely have.
Okay, good.
We absolutely have a backup. I'm not certain whether we keep a physical backup as well, which is often recommended that you keep a physical backup of your systems. But however, we have had to call, we use a different vendor than the fire department. We've had to call on our vendor to bring us back after there have been some power outages and a glitch in our generator. Which is something Gary's been asking for a new generator for a while, but that's another day. No, there's cloud-based backup that's kept at Fluid Imagery in Setauket.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
So
Thanks for that,
as far
Chief.
as this, I mean, I have no problem moving forward with this, but if there are some reservations, then so be it. And if the board has reservations on whether to pursue this purchase, then that's fine.
Cloud-based backup is at least what I wanted to know. So thank you for that. I'm good here. Just wanted to kind of get that extra clarity. Just wanted to get a little more information. Thank you, sir, for holding up the meeting.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Trustee Yastrzemski.
Aye.
Trustee Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Trustee Polaro.
Aye.
Entertain, Mayor
Thank
Warren.
you, guys.
Mayor Warren would make a motion and be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the appointment of Michael Solomon, acting village justice for a one-year term ending June 30th, 2021.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I don't know if the village attorney just wants to talk about why we have to do this now.
Yeah, so thank you, Russell. The acting village justice terms are very specific under the state village law, being overly cautious that with the elections adjourning the reorganizational meeting, we want to fill this gap by allowing this, just putting this motion in today.
Thank you, Brian.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor Warren puts forth the following appointment and requests a motion. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the appointment of Peter DeWitt to the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation to fill the June 30, 2019 expired term of Robert Coburn for the term ending June 30th, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Well,
I
aye, and then discussion. No, yes?
No, discussions after the second.
I thought we had
Second. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. I just wanted to see, I know that we emailed back and forth on this, and I know that he's very qualified, but Mr. Mayor, do you have a second candidate that we have two empty seats? Is there a second candidate that you see, that you would like to kind of have on there as well? With this person that both could be, entertained at one stage, because we also have the the replacement that needs to be done for Curtis Highsmith as well.
The way where we're at right now is the process that Susan Stevenson, who's the chairperson of the board, is doing the interviews, and then that's the first round, and then second round is me. So she is working on the interviews. I'm sure there are definitely candidates that she's considering, but she had asked that we do this appointment simply because we can get a fourth person on the board, and Peter can continue to get up to speed. And it sounds like additional candidates are forthcoming.
Are forthcoming. Okay, so the additional candidates are going to be most likely from the pool that she has in her eye that she's looking at right now.
That's right. And Russell had put out an advertisement, I believe, in the Southampton Press, and to attract some candidates for the job. But
Some additional
as you
ones.
know, a lot of people don't want these jobs because they pay almost nothing and they're very demanding.
How many candidates did we get, Russell?
Not all the candidates, are coming through the administrator's office because the initial vacancy was a mayor's appointment. The first vacancy is an unexpired term and is a mayoral appointment. So, many of them have gone to the mayor's office. We certainly could coordinate, all of the names if that's what we'd like to do here.
Do we think it's sufficient to just have put in that ad in the paper? Do we think we need to make more of an effort to get the word out, or is that?
I think there's a lot. I think there's a considerable number, of names that have been out there and so forth. We could, we certainly could. It's been several weeks, and I do know that I do know there's at least 6, I would say.
And that's including Mr. DeWitt?
Yes, at least 6, including Mr. DeWitt.
That's 5 more than I expected in this environment, quite honestly. So I'll take what I can get. So we got one. We got a bird in the hand. Let's do it, and let's worry about what we can get after, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, there's no one that you're thinking of for your appointment, because yours is the next could just be an appointment on your end, correct?
That's correct, but ultimately, I'd like to do it through board ratification and not do it unilaterally. So I'd like to bring that one up for the board regardless.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Interviewed this candidate? Everyone's interviewed Mr. DeWitt?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I know Susan.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Susan
interviewed this candidate, and she's been wanting him for a long time. That's
all I need to hear.
That rises to the top out of everyone that she has interviewed. So I have no problem with him at all.
Fine by me.
I'm talking more about the process. I think very highly of Peter DeWitt personally. I'm just talking about the process.
They have to work alongside them. If she recommends him, she's interviewed him, and they vetted him, I'm happy with that. I don't have to work alongside them directly.
Is there alternates too? My understanding is that, Russell, maybe you can help me out. Do we have alternates for if something like this happens? We go down to 3. Isn't there something that was put in by another administration saying that there should be some alternates? So in case we get into a situation we're not in a pickle, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, the village code was amended.
We did.
Yes.
So where are we with that? So we don't have any right now.
Correct.
Well, are we going to look into that also? Because if some people are need to recuse themselves or, happen to, be away for an extensive period of time due to something that is out of their control, it makes sense that we do have that. And since we do have 6 people, wouldn't it be a pretty good idea to get a few of those interested in being alternates?
I think that's a great idea. I think we want to try to move as fast as we can to get our candidates onto our boards. And then once that's done, alternates would be great. I think it's a great thing to do. It was recently, I think it was the prior administration had put that into place. Great idea. Appreciate you bringing that up and giving us a nice friendly reminder. And I think that's something we definitely should do 100%. So thank you for that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
And Russell, sorry to interrupt you. Is this something, the 11th resolution, should we do the whereas, or can we go to the resolved, or maybe that's
we're gonna resolve it. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll entertain a motion resolved. The Board of Trustees hereby designate itself as lead agency pursuant to the implementing regulations of the State Environmental Quality Review Act with respect to the proposed action as described above, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees as the lead agency for the action contemplated herein, and further be resolved and hereby determines that the above described project is an unlisted action. Further be it resolved that based upon the information contained in the short EAF and other relevant information before the trustees, the Board of Trustees as lead agency has adopted a negative declaration for the proposed action, and further be it resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees that the Lake Agawam harmful algal bloom
Don't hurt yourself.
Thank you. Dated April 2020 is hereby approved and adopted, and be it further resolved that in furtherance of the action plan, the mayor and village administrator are authorized to request and apply for a permit from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and any other relevant pursuant to Articles 15 and 24 of the Environmental Conservation Law, and be it further resolved that this resolution takes effect immediately.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, I'd like to add the resolutions we discussed earlier. Is there a motion to add resolutions to the agenda?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion, Mayor Warren. Mayor Warren makes a motion. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the following pay rates for village lifeguards, shown as listed below.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby directs that a public hearing be held at 6 p.m. prevailing time on Thursday, July 9th, 2020, on a local law amending the code of the Village of Southampton by adding a new chapter, vacant storefronts, and directs the village administrator to publish and post such notice.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Did you want to have discussion here, Mayor?
I could actually, we could let Assistant Village Attorney Alexandra Aldi Storch talk about this. She had been working on this legislation, so she can just quickly bring us up to speed.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. I sent around a proposed draft. It is a simpler version of the one that had circulated late last fall, and essentially would require a storefront that is vacant for 30 days or more to have some sort of graphic, graphic in their window. We could pre-approve certain graphics of the village, and the rest would be approved by the village administrator. The law would require 25% of the window to be covered. Trustee Allen had raised a question about whether or not we should increase that. Lighting would be permitted. That was feedback that we had received in response to feedback that had been received by members of the artist community. They felt that the artwork or graphics would need light, and window screening would be prohibited, meaning the paper coverings that you see on some of the vacant storefronts right now that covers the entire window would be prohibited. This was an open question from the last time around, but I had gotten the sense that the board preferred leaving some open space, and that from a safety perspective, that would be preferred as well. So if you have any feedback, any revisions before this goes to a public hearing, I'd be happy to make changes. If not, we can leave it in its current form.
Alexander, I have a question. I'm sorry I get a chance to email it back, but regarding the paper, so one of the things I'd spoken about in previous meetings was that the brown paper wasn't something that a lot of people liked. However, there are some businesses that have put some other type of material that looks very similar. Alice and Olivia, it's almost like I don't know if you would call it a stencil of some sort. There was a few in the village that do that, and a couple of businesses right next to the former Rose Jeweler building. And they look really good. And there's some type of material, I don't know what it is. Those would be fine too, correct?
I would have to take a look and see what it is exactly that they have, but under how it's currently drafted, no.
Okay.
Any sort of entire screening would be prohibited. It's really just requiring images.
So if we were to look at some of the ones that are here, and they are very tasteful and they are done well, not taking up everything. Because we originally talked about having certain area of a border around that would be open, rather than, because right now a lot of the things that we talked about are going 3 feet back or 3 feet back and things like that, right?
Right.
Okay. So I think one of the things we talked about also is avoiding having the brown paper, but allowing some other ways where some businesses can do some interesting things. And if we look back to Palm Beach, which is one of the places we looked in the beginning, they did a lot of that also, the stenciling type of art and some other type of really creative things besides just what it is, pictures or paintings on. I mean, a combination of both I think would be really interesting and good to do also. So I think I have a couple pictures and maybe I'll send them to you in the next day or so you can take a look and find out more about that.
So just in the way of clarification, you'd be looking to prohibit just straight brown or white.
Yeah, right. I think
but anything that's within a certain percentage that has some sort of graphic on it would be acceptable.
Right.
Okay.
Some type of art displays, again, just a different way of, displaying art.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And the other part is we're also allowing the sourcing of art through our historical archives. So we would have an array of art for existing stores to choose from. And those are lovely historical pictures of our Lake Agawam and other edifices. And then in addition to Mark's point, because I think it's a good first start, my personal opinion is if you own the building and you only want to be open 6 months out of the year, you just want to cover the whole thing up when you go or leave it bare. And we don't want it to be exposed and bare, right? That's the objective that we're trying to close. So the question is, if we have a minimum, and this is a question for the public, if we have a minimum of a 25% requirement in a window, is that sufficient, right? Meaning, will that look aesthetically pleasing? And we've had some tests with the Southampton Arts Association and Mr. Mara around that. And, some of if it can look small is all I'm saying. I mean, it's better than not having anything, but it is small. So that's my only comment. But good first start. Thank you.
Would you want the minimum increased?
I think that the community needs to kind of look at the legislation and walk around the village and say, hey, if I had this painting in here and that painting, I've talked to a lot of artists and some of them think, yeah, it's good. And some of them think, oh, it's small. And to them, the issue is more the lighting. So if, where their painting is, how people will see it. So, but we just want to make sure it looks pretty. I don't know another community that has a 25% limit, and I'm sure there are, but we saw a couple and it looked small, but that's my personal opinion.
Okay. So I'll leave that language for now and let the community weigh in. Is that?
Yeah.
I think all these comments are good. And I just think that maybe we should, because we're going to have a public hearing, I'd like them to get on as part of the public record for the public hearing. So if any trustees or the mayor, certainly executive staff has any comments on the draft that's circulated and available to the public as part of this agenda tonight. Get them to Assistant Village Attorney Storch, and then we can have all these comments at the public hearing.
So we'll come back to you with whatever we're hearing is what you're saying, in addition
Yeah.
to the public. Got it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then if any tweaks or changes need to be made as part of the public hearing, once that happens, we can do it there too.
Okay.
Well, we move forward with what we have, right? Because we have to start with something.
Correct.
With the understanding that we could, adapt it after the public hearing.
Precisely.
Thank you. So move
Thank
ahead
you.
with what we got there, Counselor.
Okay,
Storch.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the closing of Main Street and Jobs Lane to vehicular traffic for the purposes of expanding outdoor commerce on Friday and Saturday nights, beginning Saturday, June 27th, Main Street to Hampton and Jobs, Jobs Lane to O'Connell Drive, through July 4th for the hours of 5:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Mark. Should have been your second.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to enter into a contract with Paul Rogers for the purpose of architectural work for a grant application for Rogers Mansion, not to exceed $3,000.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor into a contract with Nelson Pope and Voorhees for environmental assistance on permit applications to the New York State DEC for wetlands and pesticide permits, not to exceed $8,000.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Was there a question? I'm sorry. Okay. Entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees extends the temporary rules of Cooper's of parking beach restrictions, with the exception of allowing the sale of daily permits on weekdays and the sale of beach chairs. I'm sorry. And the sale of beach chairs, a limited number of beach chairs.
Sale or rental?
Rental would be the correct way, yes.
Good catch. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Brian, you have some competition there. It was a good resolution, Russell.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
That was excellent.
You didn't have enough whereas.
All right, entertain a motion that the village board hereby adopts a local law amending section 86-8 of the village code, which shall read as follows. 86-8, all persons who are hereby prohibited at all times from having in their possession or consuming any beer, wine, liquor, or other intoxicating beverage at the municipal bathing facility and parking area, except in accordance with section 82(3)(b), and that this local law be hereby declared as a type 2 action under secret, and that further be it resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Yastrzemski.
Sure, why not? Aye.
Trustee Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Trustee Polaro.
Aye.
I think I got them all.
All right. Thank you very much, Russell. We now have comments from board members, per usual. Trustee Yastrzemski, you are first.
Well, again, it's been pointed out every meeting, going on month 4, very tumultuous times. This board, this mayor has been presented with both a pandemic and social unrest, neither of which I can assure any board has met head on ever, let alone have both of them. Social unrest. But so I commend again our departments, everybody, Village Hall, everybody's been open back for business, and life is resuming. And I ask people that everyone enter it with a sense of dignity and respect. Again, I always say, know the law and know your rights. And there's we're okay compared to numbers around us, but we're not done yet by no stretch of the imagination. And we're going to continue to have this pandemic hanging over us in some way, shape, or form going forward, no doubt in my mind. And the social unrest, I hope, levels off to some degree, so destruction and animus stops. So, but again, I want to thank everybody on the board and certainly everybody who represents the village, all departments who thus far have, we've moved through it pretty well, and I hope that continues.
Thank you very much, Trustee Yastrzemski. Well said. Trustee Allen.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your start to the summer. On June 21st was our official summer equinox. It's the lightest day of the year. And speaking of light, I attended my first Juneteenth celebration in Agawam Park that commemorates when the Emancipation Proclamation was fully realized and marking the end of slavery. It was a beautiful celebration. We had a wonderful welcome, and Cece Highsmith read the Emancipation Proclamation, and then her mother Tanisha sang beautifully, and then several people spoke, and I learned a lot, and we had dancers and musicians, and it was a perfect morning with inspirational words and music and wonderful food. And of course, I have to thank Nisi Smith again, who led the way. I'm missing a lot of names of people who participated, but it really was a wonderful day and prevented animus, as Trustee Yastrzemski just mentioned. So the holidays that we choose to recognize are a reflection of our values and in our community and society as a whole. So it was a very meaningful event. Thank you so much. And I think this past week, I don't remember the day exactly, Councilor Egan, but he recognized Juneteenth as a holiday for state employees, right? Okay, yeah. And I guess he's committed to supporting legislation to make that happen as a state holiday next year, but I just wanted to understand that. So anyway, the other good news is we are on track for entering phase 3 tomorrow. That means that our dining establishments can have up to 50% capacity exclusive of their own staff, and that's great. In addition, it allows a number of new businesses to open. Spas are one of them, tattoo parlors. I don't think we have any in the village, but you never know.
I'm opening one up now.
We do?
I'm opening one up.
Yeah, okay, we're missing that. Okay, we'll have to put that on the track.
Timing's everything.
So we've got a couple, new stores opening. I mean, a couple of new types of services being allowed to open, which is fantastic. And on that note, I also wanted to talk about how happy I am that our Business Revitalization Committee has supported us and is very eager for the pilot and has many, many good ideas. And also I wanted to thank Trustee Parrish for coming up with the catchy name for this first weekend closure. And I guess I'll let him tell you that. I also wanted to just mention that I forgot to thank Jen Messiano last time because she worked very hard over the weekend with Gary Gillespie and a number of other people. And Gary, I forgot to mention your name too, so I apologize, on the grant that we submitted. So hopefully some good news will come out of that. And I think that's all I had. I wanted to just thank Rob Coburn for his contributions and dedications to the board to everyone's point earlier, it's in many ways a lot of work. You don't get paid a lot of money. I'm not advertising this very well, am I? But it is great if you care about the village. So I really appreciate that. And oh yes, the last thing is we have a new youth committee, and it's headed by Kathy Bishop. She had a youth fair today in partnership with the Southampton Village History Museum. A number of teachers were there, and apparently almost 40 high school students showed up. I really want to thank all of our village businesses and organizations who have approached us and told us that they have opportunities for these students. As you can imagine, these students can't go anywhere this summer. There are no camps for them. It's been a really tough go. And we are looking for as many opportunities for our local community as we can get. And we're told these are, a great group, and they're eager to work this summer. So if any of you have any additional job opportunities that we didn't know about as of today, please reach out to, I guess the best person, Julie, would that be you? And you'll pass them on to Kathy Bishop? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Sure, no problem.
Of course, Julie, there you go.
Yes, and thank you, and have a great 4th of July, everyone.
Thank you very much for that. Well said. Trustee Parrish.
Yeah, good evening, and thanks for tuning in tonight for another Zoom meeting. And I just want to thank Rob Coburn off the bat right away. Also, thank you for your dedication to the ARB, and we appreciate the time that you put in. Also, as we get ready for phase 3, we're going to start seeing people again in our dining establishments, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing people I haven't seen in close to 4 months now, and I'm also looking forward to seeing how this moves forward. The outside dining has been very good. I've even put tables outside myself for the first time in 63 years. So, change does happen rather slowly though sometimes. However, it has brought a sense of engagement. It has brought a sense of interest. So that's good. One of the things I am really looking forward to is actually relearning my business. I learned how to do a business during COVID, a totally different way than I was used to. And now as I come back out, I got to relearn, the business I had before. So I do this, I've come out of this a better businessman. And I think that most of us, like Rich said earlier, we've been coming out of this, we've gotten a lot of, excuse me, uppercuts, left hooks and things like that really put us in a different situation at times. But I feel pretty good coming out of this, and where, I stand personally, and I know each of you feel the same way about yourselves, and the people out there that are watching, I'm sure we've all learned something out of this. So let's keep going forward. Let's, be smart. And this, first pilot event on Saturday night, let's go for it. I encourage all the businesses to, put your best foot forward, stay open late, engage, and, start to, connect with the people that are on the streets. And, this works out well. It's not going to be perfect, like I said earlier, but it's a beginning. It's a beginning of something that I think that people really want to look at. It can take off from there. And lastly, I lost it.
The name.
What's the catchy name?
Oh, Southampton in the Streets. Southampton in the Streets. Like I took dancing in the streets and I put Southampton in. So it's just a way that, listen, again, we have, in my opinion, the prettiest village downtown, and, let's show it off, and let's get people to, walk around and have some fun and smile. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Great name. We like it. So thank you again. Next is Trustee Polaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that Russell said we're going to, hear more about the ambulance barn and all of that. I think it was, again, as Trustee Allen said earlier, it was one day last week. I was in town and I saw about 3 ambulances drive past me, not with lights on or anything like that. And I kind of went, ah. And later that day, I was in Stop and Shop getting some groceries for dinner, and I saw the first ambulance come out of the ambulance barn with its lights on and all of that. So it's nice to see that that has moved along, that it seems to be working out. And so congratulations to them and all the hard work that has been done over the years. I know it's not been easy, but I'm glad that that is now in place. Trustee Ostremski said something, know the law, know your rights earlier. And I think that kind of, that hit me a little, because I was in Village Hall one day, and there were a couple of people in, and they were doing what they needed to be do, but they weren't really respecting the people in Village Hall. They weren't respecting the workplace. And so, I think that that's very good to know the law, know your rights, know what can and can't be done. And I would just say to all the people that are watching this, respect the people who are working to try and help you. The people in Village Hall don't do things to make your life difficult. They do things because it's the right way of doing them. And there are rules and regulations in place. And so if you respect them, it's much easier for them to do the job that you want them to do without too much of a hassle. So I think it was a little eye-opening for me, I have to say. And hopefully, and in talking to Counselor, I was able to follow what was in the right for our employees. So I'm happy about that. But let's respect people in their workplace. With regards to the art in the park, I'm very glad that will be going forward with the Southampton Art Council, and also knowing that this week the Southampton Art Center will have their sculpture garden in place outside, and so that will be great to be able to go and walk around as well. Camps will start to open up shortly. Day camps will be, so that is good. I know Future Stars at SYS will be opening up soon, so happy about that. Again, allowing kids to go and to spend time, and also give them an opportunity to potentially work. So that really is about all I have. I do want to thank Mr. Coburn as well for all his hard work on the ARB. And then, yes, seeing how we don't have another meeting before 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to everyone.
Thank you very much, Trustee Polaro. I will try to keep things brief just to wrap our meeting up tonight, but I did want to give a special thank you to Chief Cummings, who's here in the meeting tonight, as well as to our entire Southampton Village Police Department. This past week, we had a peaceful protest, and we had members of our community very inspired, and they were obviously using their First Amendment right. And I wanted to show support, and of course attended the peaceful protest, and I watched our Southampton Village Police Department really show the highest level of professionalism throughout. It couldn't have really gone better. It worked out very well, and I could not have been more impressed by really the level of professionalism. And so I wanted to thank our chief and really every officer involved last Friday night. So thank you again. Also, a quick again wanted to also thank Rob Coburn. And we're looking forward to working with him and Tom Latham on the Clean Water Committee. We may not have, we should all take a good look at the plan that they put together. They've been putting a lot of work in it. And I'm really excited that Rob now has some extra time to really focus on the Clean Water Committee. So we want to obviously keep the plan updated, and hopefully adopt all updates to that plan in the future. And then also just wanted to thank Alexandra for her work on the window legislation. I think with everything going on with Southampton in the streets, this couldn't be a better time to adopt this local law to really expand the artwork in our community, and I think would add a lot, especially to Job's Lane, which has some vacancies, which towards the end of the street. So wanted to thank Alexandra as well for her hard work. Of course, Brian as well, and also thank Gary Gillespie. Sometimes there is so much to do. You and the department have been working very hard, and a lot of times it goes unnoticed. But wanted to thank Gary as well, of course, Russell, and our board. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So
Is
move.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
You.